A whisper from antiquity. A dream of universal wisdom. Imagine a place where every scroll, every thought, every scientific discovery, every poetic verse ever penned, was gathered under one roof. A repository of human ingenuity, boundless and eternal. Then, imagine it gone. A silence. A void. This is the story of the Library of Alexandria, a legend of unparalleled ambition and an enduring mystery. What was it? And more importantly, what happened to it? The answers remain elusive, fragments scattered across time, begging to be reassembled. Following the monumental conquests of Alexander the Great, his vast empire fractured. Generals, known as the Diadochi, carved out their own kingdoms. In Egypt, Ptolemy Soter, Alexander's loyal companion, established a new dynasty. His vision was grand: to transform the newly founded city of Alexandria into the undisputed cultural and intellectual capital of the Hellenistic world. Not just a powerful port, but a shining beacon of enlightenment. A magnet for the brightest minds. A testament to Greek ambition on foreign soil. A new age was dawning, and with it, a new kind of power. Ptolemy's vision coalesced around a unique institution, the Mouseion, or museum. More than a mere collection, it was a living academy, a research institute where scholars lived, studied, and debated. Attached to this Mouseion, in the opulent royal quarter, was the Great Library. It was inspired by Aristotle's Lyceum, Alexander's own teacher's school, but on an unprecedented scale. Here, knowledge wouldn't just be preserved, it would be actively created, nurtured, and celebrated. A sanctuary for intellectual pursuit. A haven for the curious. Its very existence, a statement. It was Ptolemy II Philadelphus who truly set the library's course for unparalleled greatness. He commanded an aggressive acquisition strategy, dispatching agents across the known world to scour markets and temples for every conceivable text. But his most audacious decree? Every ship entering Alexandria's harbor was required to surrender its scrolls. These texts were then copied by scribes. The originals? Often kept for the library's collection, while the copies were returned. A systematic, almost ruthless, pursuit of knowledge. No expense spared. No opportunity missed. A hunger for every written word. The collection grew to staggering proportions. While exact numbers vary wildly across ancient sources, from 40,000 to 700,000 scrolls, even conservative estimates place it as the largest in the ancient world. It housed everything: philosophy, science, literature, medicine, mathematics, history. The cumulative wisdom of civilizations. A universal library, in every sense of the word. Imagine the sheer volume, the weight of so much thought, so many discoveries, painstakingly preserved on papyrus. A physical manifestation of humanity's intellectual journey. A monument to learning. Within its hallowed halls, some of history's most brilliant minds converged. Euclid, whose Elements laid the foundation for geometry. Eratosthenes, who accurately calculated the Earth's circumference with astounding precision. Aristarchus of Samos, who controversially proposed a heliocentric model of the universe, centuries before Copernicus. These weren't just custodians of knowledge, they were trailblazers, pushing the boundaries of understanding. Their legacy, woven into the very fabric of science and reason, began here. A confluence of genius. A fertile ground for revelation. The library wasn't merely a passive archive. Its scholars pioneered entire fields of study. Hipparchus developed the first comprehensive star catalogue. Herophilus and Erasistratus made groundbreaking advances in anatomy and physiology, possibly through human dissection. Callimachus created the Pinox, considered the first library catalogue, a monumental bibliographic work. They didn't just collect texts, they systematized, criticized, and expanded upon them. They were the world's first critical editors, textual scholars, and lexicographers. The very foundation of modern academic discipline began to form. A revolution in thought. Among its most ambitious projects was the translation of the Hebrew Bible into Greek, a monumental undertaking known as the Septuagint. This wasn't just a linguistic exercise, it was an act of cultural bridge building, making sacred texts accessible to the Hellenistic world. Scholars labored over the scrolls, meticulously translating, ensuring accuracy. This vast endeavor demonstrated the library's commitment to encompassing all forms of knowledge, secular and sacred, from every corner of its reach. A testament to its universalist ambition. A dialogue across cultures. Yet, even as the library reached its zenith, the seeds of its eventual decline were sown. Political instability, internal strife within the Ptolemaic dynasty, and the relentless rise of Rome cast long shadows. The imperial patronage, once so fervent, began to wane. Intellectual freedom, too, sometimes came at a cost. Scholars occasionally faced persecution or exile. The era of unquestioned support, of limitless resources, was slowly drawing to a close. The grand vision, once so clear, began to blur. A shift in the geopolitical landscape. The distant rumblings of an empire's end. Then came Julius Caesar. In 48 BCE, embroiled in a desperate civil war, he found himself trapped in Alexandria. Besieged, he made a ruthless decision to set fire to his own fleet to prevent its capture. A tactical maneuver. But fires, once lit, often rage beyond control. The flames spread to the docks, to the adjacent warehouses. And here, the narrative clouds. Did this catastrophic blaze reach the great library itself? Or only those vast stores of scrolls awaiting processing, kept in peripheral buildings? A moment of chaos. A spark of destruction. The beginning of a long debate. Caesar himself mentioned the destruction of a large library in his accounts, but the specifics remain vague. Later Roman writers, like Seneca and Plutarch, certainly attributed the library's ruin to Caesar's fire. It's a dramatic, definitive narrative. But was it entirely accurate? Modern scholarship suggests that while nearby warehouses containing scrolls were undoubtedly incinerated, the main library building, a more robust structure, likely survived. Severely damaged, yes. Significant losses, absolutely. But a total annihilation? Perhaps not. The loss was profound, but not necessarily terminal. A partial truth, becoming legend. Despite Cleopatra's subsequent efforts, aided by Mark Antony, to replenish the collection with scrolls from Pergamum, the Roman conquest marked a turning point. Under Roman rule, the imperial patronage that once fueled the library's growth diminished. Alexandria ceased to be the sole intellectual heart. Other centers of learning emerged, Rome itself included. The vibrant scholarly community that once thrived there slowly dispersed, or found less support. Without continuous acquisition, maintenance, and the influx of new minds, even the greatest institution can wither. A slow decay. Not a sudden death, but a gradual fading. Even as the main library declined, another institution gained prominence, the Serapeum. Often referred to as the daughter library, it was originally a temple dedicated to the Greco-Egyptian god Serapis, housing a significant collection of scrolls. For a time, it served as a vital repository, a secondary intellectual hub in Alexandria. As the great library faded from its former glory, the Serapeum became a focal point for pagan scholarship and worship. It represented a different, yet connected, center of knowledge. A refuge, perhaps, for the waning light of ancient wisdom. But its very prominence would eventually make it a target. Centuries later, a new force swept across the Roman Empire, Christianity. What began as a persecuted faith now held imperial power. Emperor Theodosius I issued decrees against pagan temples and practices, marking a dramatic shift in cultural policy. The zeal of the early Christian Church, coupled with its desire to establish supremacy, led to widespread destruction of pagan symbols, statues, and institutions. The intellectual landscape of the ancient world was irrevocably changing. A clash of ideologies. a new, fervent belief, and a growing intolerance for anything deemed pagan. In 391 CE, the Serapeum became a casualty of this religious fervor. Bishop Theophilus of Alexandria, a prominent Christian leader, led a mob to destroy the temple and its contents. Accounts describe a violent assault, the smashing of idols, and the burning of scrolls. This event is often conflated with the destruction of the Great Library itself, though by this time, the main library had likely ceased to function as its former self. Regardless, it represented a catastrophic loss of knowledge, a chilling symbol of religious intolerance triumphing over intellectual heritage. A deliberate act. A dark echo. The shadows deepened further with the murder of Hypatia in 415 CE. A brilliant Neoplatonist philosopher, mathematician, and astronomer, she was a symbol of Alexandria's lingering intellectual prowess. But as a pagan woman in a city increasingly dominated by Christian zeal, she became a target. A Christian mob, incited by fanatical sermons, brutally murdered her. While not directly linked to the library's physical destruction, her demise underscored the brutal suppression of dissenting thought and the perilous environment for intellectual pursuit. A tragic end. A chilling warning. The light of reason flickered. Centuries later, in 642 CE, Alexandria fell to the Muslim army led by Amr ibn al-As. A final, dramatic theory of the library's destruction emerges here. Bishop John Philoponus, a Christian scholar, supposedly pleaded with Amr to spare the library's books. The general, in turn, sought advice from Caliph Omar. Omar's alleged reply? If the books agree with the Quran, they are superfluous. If they contradict it, they are harmful. Burn them. And so, the story goes, the remaining scrolls were used to fuel the city's bathhouses for months. A grim fate. A definitive, sweeping annihilation. But this dramatic account, so often cited, has a crucial flaw. It appears for the first time centuries after the event, in the writings of Abd al-Latif al-Baghdadi in the 13th century. Most modern historians now largely dismiss it as a later invention, perhaps a propaganda fable designed to demonize Muslim rule. By 642 CE, it's highly improbable that the Great Library, in any recognizable form, still existed. Its magnificent collection had already been dispersed, destroyed, or simply crumbled into dust over centuries of neglect and smaller, less dramatic incidents. A powerful myth, but likely not history. So, who truly destroyed the Library of Alexandria? Was it Caesar's accidental fire, the Christian mob's religious fervor, or Omar's alleged decree? The truth, perhaps, is far more complex, and far less dramatic than any single event. It was likely a cumulative tragedy. A slow, agonizing death by 1,000 cuts. Political infighting. Economic decline. Shifting intellectual priorities. Natural decay. Multiple acts of destruction, each chipping away at its grandeur. No single villain. No definitive moment. Just a gradual diminishment of the greatest collection of knowledge the ancient world had ever known. A puzzle with no single answer. The Library of Alexandria is gone. The scrolls turned to dust. The debate silenced. We can only mourn what was lost, countless works of philosophy, science, and literature that might have advanced human civilization by centuries. But its memory, its profound impact, endures. It stands as both a testament to humanity's boundless curiosity and a stark warning about the fragility of knowledge. A reminder of the constant need to preserve, protect, and pursue understanding. The dream of Alexandria, of a place for all knowledge, lives on in every library, every university, every search for truth. A legacy, not of stones, but of an idea. A light that refuses to be extinguished.